She thought she was being clever. In the middle of the afternoon, I heard the sound of metal scratching against my front lock. When I opened the door, there she was. Karen from the HOA, holding a ring of keys like she owned the place. She froze for a second, then waved the keys and said, "This is HOA property. I have authority to check." I didn't even have time to respond before my teenage son stepped into the doorway, glaring at her. "That's our house," he said, his voice sharp. "And you don't belong here." Her face drained of color as if she had been caught red-handed. But instead of backing down, she tried to bluff her way out. "Don't talk to me like that," she snapped. "I can have you both fined or worse." My son didn't flinch. He folded his arms and stared her down. And for the first time, I saw fear flash across her eyes. She tried to laugh it off, but her hand was trembling. And those master keys rattled like they didn't even belong to her. Karen stepped back, her fake confidence slipping. But instead of leaving, she pulled out her phone. "You'll regret this," she hissed, dialing with shaky fingers. Within minutes, a police car rolled up to the curb. She rushed toward the officer like she'd just been rescued. "Arrest them!" she shouted, pointing at us. "They're trespassing in that house. It's HOA property." The cop's eyes narrowed, clearly confused, but Karen shoved a paper at him. "See? Eviction notice. Effective today." My son leaned closer to me and whispered, "That's not even real. She printed that off the internet." I nodded, staying calm, but my blood was boiling. The officer studied the paper, his jaw tightening. Karen smirked at us like she had already won, but then the cop slowly looked up at her and asked, "Ma'am, where did you get this document?" Her lips twitched as if she hadn't expected anyone to question her. She stammered, It came from the HOA office." My son took a step forward, his voice steady. "That's a lie. My mom works in law. She'll know exactly what's real and what's fake." Karen's face went pale again, and the keys in her hand slipped against her palm. The officer folded the paper slowly, tucking it under his arm. His eyes stayed locked on Karen, not us. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step aside while I verify this." Her smirk cracked, but she tried to laugh it off. "Oh, officer, you don't need to waste time." "They're lying. They broke HOA rules months ago. I have authority." "Authority?" My son cut her off, his tone sharp. "You don't even sit on the HOA board. You just harass people." The officer raised a brow, clearly catching the shift. Karen's cheeks turned bright red. She opened her mouth to scream again, but then I stepped forward, holding my phone out. "Before you go any further, you should see this." I tapped the screen, and the video played, our security camera footage from just minutes earlier. It showed Karen creeping up to our door, fumbling with her so-called master key and whispering under her breath, "Come on, this one has to work." The officer leaned closer to the screen, his jaw tightening. Karen gasped and tried to snatch the phone, but my son blocked her. "Touch my mom's phone and you'll regret it," he warned. For the first time, the officer turned fully toward her, his hand hovering near his radio. "Ma'am, you might want to explain why you're attempting to break into their home." Karen's eyes darted between us, searching for an escape, but there was none. Karen's voice cracked as she tried to spin another lie. "I wasn't breaking in. The HOA gave me these keys. I was just checking for safety. Violations." But the officer wasn't buying it anymore. He took the keys from her trembling hand, turning them over. "These aren't official issue. Where did you get them?" She stuttered. I had them made." "The locksmith didn't ask questions." My son burst out. "So you admitted it. You copied our locks." Karen's face turned red, her mouth opening and closing with no words coming out. The neighbors had started to gather by now, drawn by the flashing patrol car lights and the raised voices. Phones were pointed at her, recording every second. That's when my wife stepped outside. She had been silent until now, standing back to see how far Karen would go. Calmly, she approached the officer, handed him her ID, and said, "I work in federal law enforcement. Would you like me to run a trace on where these fake eviction notices came from?" Karen's jaw dropped. She staggered back a step, eyes wide with panic. The crowd murmured, realizing the woman she had tried to frame was someone she should never have messed with. The officer gave my wife a respectful nod, then turned toward Karen. "Ma'am, things just got a lot more serious for you. Karen's bravado collapsed completely. She stammered, You can't do this to me? I'm the HOA. I control this neighborhood. My son shot back loud enough for everyone to hear. Not anymore, you don't. The officer pulled out his radio, calling in a second unit, while Karen kept pacing in circles like a trapped animal. The neighbors whispered among themselves, some even laughing quietly, their phones raised higher. Her power was slipping right through her fingers, and she knew it. Trying one last time, she lunged toward the officer, pointing at us with wild eyes. They don't even own this house. The HOA owns it. I have the documents. That's when I opened our folder. I had been waiting for this moment. Calmly, I pulled out the original deed, signed and sealed with our names in bold letters. I held it high for everyone to see. This land has been ours for 10 years. Nobody, especially not her, can take it from us. The crowd gasped, a few people clapped, and Karen's mouth fell open. She tried to grab the paper, but the officer stepped between us. Enough, ma'am. That's legal proof of ownership. If you continue this behavior, you'll be arrested for trespassing and attempted fraud. Karen shook her head violently. No. This isn't how it works. I'm in charge here. I decide who stays. But her screams only made her look smaller. The second police unit pulled up, and 2 more officers stepped out. One of them recognized my wife immediately, saluted her, and said, Ma'am, how would you like us to proceed? The crowd went silent. Karen's face drained of all color. For the first time, she realized she wasn't the authority anymore. She was the criminal. Karen froze, her mouth half open, as if the salute had stolen every word from her throat. The neighbors were wide-eyed now, whispering louder. One even said, Wait, she's federal? No wonder Karen's panicking. The officer who had saluted looked at my wife with complete respect. We can file charges right now for unlawful entry, attempted fraud, and harassment. Do you want to press them? Karen suddenly dropped to her knees, clutching the officer's pant leg like a desperate child. Please, don't arrest me. I was only doing what's best for the community. They're dangerous people. I was just trying to protect the neighborhood. My son couldn't hold back a laugh. Dangerous? You broke into our house with fake keys. Karen shot him a glare, but her fear was winning over her pride. The crowd wasn't on her side anymore. They were shaking their heads, some even booing. The woman who used to bark orders at everyone was now begging like a cornered thief. My wife didn't even raise her voice. She just looked at Karen coldly and said, You tried to threaten my family. You forged documents, and you lied to the police. That's not protecting anyone. That's criminal. Karen's hands shook as she whispered, No, please, I can fix this. But the officers were already pulling her to her feet, cuffing her hands behind her back. The sound of metal closing around her wrists made the crowd erupt, half in shock, half in satisfaction. And as they led her toward the squad car, my son muttered just loud enough for everyone to hear, Guess that master key doesn't open jail doors. Karen thrashed as the officers guided her to the squad car, her voice echoing down the street. You'll regret this. The HOA will crush you. I'll sue every one of you. But nobody was listening anymore. Neighbors who once feared her now stood united, recording every second of her downfall. One man shouted, Hey, Karen, maybe write a fake notice from jail. Laughter rippled through the crowd, and for the first time, the fear she had used to control everyone was gone. The lead officer turned back to us, calm but firm. We'll take her in. She'll be charged with multiple counts, including impersonating authority. Do you want a restraining order filed as well? My wife nodded. Yes, and make it permanent. Karen's face twisted as she was pushed into the back seat. She tried one last time to scream over the laughter and whispers. You can't do this to me! I am the HOA. But the slam of the squad car door cut her voice off like a final sentence. My son watched silently, then looked up at me. It's over, right? I put my hand on his shoulder. For her, yes, for us. It's just the beginning of peace. The neighbors slowly approached, shaking our hands, some even apologizing for not standing up sooner. We were scared of her, one woman admitted. But you showed us she wasn't unstoppable. She was just a bully with too much time on her hands. My wife gave a faint smile. Bullies always crumble when you shine a light on them. The flashing police lights faded as the car drove away, but the look on Karen's face through the window, a mix of rage and helplessness, was burned into everyone's memory. The street grew quiet after the squad car disappeared. leaving only the glow of porch lights and the murmurs of relieved neighbors. For the first time in years, the air felt lighter, like a weight had finally been lifted off the whole community. I glanced at my wife and son, both standing tall, both unshaken despite the chaos. My son still had fire in his eyes, but there was pride there too. "You know," he said softly, "she really thought she could scare us. But the moment she touched that lock, she lost everything." My wife nodded. "Because this is our home. No fake notice, no copied key, no bully can take that away." The crowd began to break apart. People heading back inside, still buzzing with excitement. Some waved at us, some clapped us on the back. For once, the neighborhood was united, not by fear of Karen, but by the justice they'd just witnessed. I looked up at the flag waving above our porch, the fabric catching the night breeze. It wasn't just cloth, it was a reminder. This house, this land, this freedom, we earned it. Nobody could strip that away. My son stood beside me, his voice steady, almost like a promise. "She thought she had the master key. But the real key is knowing when to stand your ground." I smiled, tightening my arm around his shoulder. "And that's something no lock, no HOA, no Karen can ever take from us." And with that, we closed our door. Finally, in peace, knowing the neighborhood bully was gone, and our families' strength had been carved into every heart that witnessed the night she fell.